Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby here with Damian Del Borrello, nominated for Outstanding Sound Editing for The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. And congratulations on this is your first ever Emmy nomination. When we last talked, you weren't an Emmy nominee. Now you are. Has that sunken in yet that you can call yourself an Emmy nominee?
Yeah, look, it is so exciting to be nominated. I mean, it's a funny feeling because it's really I'm so proud of the team because it's really the collective effort that has brought us to the nomination. Personally, obviously, I'm really happy and. Just to be nominated alongside a whole lot of amazing sound artists. It's just a great feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you were nominated for episode 6, Udun, and when I was thinking about the episode and your work in it, there's two sort of contrasting battle moments that really stood out to me that are back to back. The first being when the orcs sort of creep in into the human encampment in the night and they trap them. And I'm curious, everything feels like you could hear a pin drop, and there's so much anticipation in that sequence. How did the quietness of that setting affect your work with the sound?
Look, I think this is really a credit to Bo Borders and Lindsay Alvarez, our mixers. It's really great that you mention that there's moments of silence because when we put all these scenes together, there's a lot in there, and so their job really is mostly about pulling stuff out. There's so much music. We've got lots of sort of ambient backgrounds as well as like lots of loop group and orc kind of voices. So it's really about picking sort of moments to punch and moments to pull back. And actually, the music was probably one of the hardest parts of the whole episode there because I mean, Bear's score is just incredible. So it's like, where do you choose to pull it down
Yeah.
when you've got all this incredible music that's all doing such a great job of telling the emotional story. Um, we're always reluctant to pull it out, but you need to pull it out and pull it down in moments. So it really is just um, the other side of it is also the picture editing. The way those sequences were put together, it actually became really clear pretty early on. The shape of the tension, the shape of the emotion of the little sequences within the whole. So we were definitely guided by the picture edit. Jochen Fitzherbert cut episode 6 is a fantastic Kiwi editor. And so we worked with what we were sort of presented with, and there was a lot of iteration. So it's like any show of scale. There's always a lot of opinions, and we need to be respectful and sort of choose the correct sort of notes to accept. And so, look, I think these episodes are so big that there's no one thing that you can point to that makes it great. It's such a team effort, and that's sort of the story of the whole season, really.
Yeah. There are a lot of individual moments that stand out to me though with the sounds, like that when the humans think they've won, but then the orc archers start picking them off all left and right, and the sound almost it gets into slow-mo. The arrows feel like they've been pulled back and we're hearing them from like under a blanket or underwater or something. Where did that choice come from?
Yeah, so I guess that's like a subjective moment where it's like we are in the oral POV of the humans. So it's like a moment of shock, a moment of fear, where the world kind of dissolves away, and it's like an internal headspace. So that was actually certainly the initial idea was presented by the picture editorial team. So Jochen would have, he actually did a little bit of a temp on that. But then because we were on each episode so early in the process, we were able to jump in and present sounds and give that back to the picture editor, the editorial team, and they were actually able to build that with our sounds as well. So that was a really collaborative process, and is sort of a little bit unique to shows of this size, where we're actually able to get in early and help inform the picture edit, rather than just waiting to receive the locked cut and then trying to make things work after.
And you know, I think we've all seen people like, because I'm thinking of battle scenes, which a lot of people think of when they think of, you know, sound editing and sound design. And we've all seen people get slashed by a sword before. But when the orcs have the humans captive and they're just slowly pushing the swords in, I don't know what you did with the sound effects there, but it's like you can feel it. How did you create that effect?
Yeah, look, I think it's with those types of things, it's always a combination of sound effects editing, but in particular, our Foley team are incredible. Amy and Jonathan, who are a local company called Bespoke Post, they're specialist Foley artists, and we put them to task with every single slash, every single stab. They sort of present a bespoke little bit of gore, a little bit of detail of, say, if it's slicing through material, that becomes a layer that they put in, that they record specifically in sync. And so it's generally the combination of the bigger sound effect moment, maybe the more basic kind of like stylized component, with more of a real detailed element. And that's really across the board, across the whole show. But it also comes from the original films, because that was a key part to how those films sounded so good. It was the layering of the real element with the fantasy and the heightened kind of elements that made it all feel quite realistic and present, you know?
Well, everything feels very present and clear, remarkably, in the Numenorians scene when they come in and save the day. It is an enormous battle scene, and there is so much sound going on, all different types. So what do you find is the key to a scene like that is so busy and so full of sound and making it clear for the audience?
Yeah, I guess certainly the way that sequence is put together, there's the triumphant horse charge, but then when they arrive into the town, it's really quick cuts and lots of like, you can barely even see half of the action because it's so close and it's so quick short shots. But if you're always following the action to the letter with those scenes, it can get really confusing because visually you're not really quite clocking what's going on. So I think that sequence was all about the transition from the big triumphant music moment where the heroes are coming over the hill to save the day. We played mainly the sort of the horses, but really that was a music moment. But then as soon as they're into the town, it's almost like the music drops off. And then there are all of these really quick, and it's very specific. It's, you know, almost like shot for shot, you're hearing something completely different. But then as we cut out of the more close shots, we sort of get more of a perspective of what's happening across the town. We sort of then move less specific and kind of just sort of have more general tones, and then the music will come back in. So it really is about weaving in and out of the music to not only tell the practical story of what's happening in the scene, but also the emotional story. Often, you know, there might be a little battle between two main characters that you don't necessarily want to hear all the stabs and swishes, but the music is probably the most important part there, because that's part of a bigger battle that started 3 episodes ago, type thing. So it's again not any one particular thing. It's just the constant sort of. We were very lucky with specifically that sequence as well as that episode. We actually had a lot of time to put all those bits together, and we actually needed a lot of time because a lot of the VFX shots were coming in and getting changed, and then coming in again and being different timings and stuff. So yeah, I think we've, that specific scene is probably one of my favorites in the entire season.
How long does that take for you to piece that together, a scene like that? Is there a lot of experimentation to find the right dynamic?
Well, I think one of the things we wanted to do was make sure that each sword hit, each slash, each stab, or everything, even shield sounds, was unique. We didn't want it to feel just like anything was repeated, or it was just a cacophony of the same types of sounds. So there was a lot of building and rebuilding of those things. The picture edit also was slightly changing as the months sort of rolled on. But I know that episode got to a very close lock pretty early on, but it really was all about the VFX. So that's a few months worth of work there, really. We had there was not only on the sound effects side of things, but there was also on the dialogue side of things. So we re-recorded all of the orcs for the entire season, but specifically that had a lot of crowd orcs. So our loop group team was just constantly building and rebuilding and patching and adding to the broader sort of crowd sounds. So this was really a monumental effort from both sides of the team, the dialogue and the sound effects.
Yeah. And once that big battle scene is done, we of course have this epic eruption from Mount Doom, which I think, is like this huge fan moment, right? For anyone who is a Lord of the Rings fan. But it has, I think nature is a big element of this show, as it was in Tolkien's writing. And this scene, even though there are massive sonic booms and there's debris and fire flying everywhere, it feels primal. It feels like it is still from nature. So how do you approach the sound for a moment like that and keep it with that element?
Yeah. I mean, that's you're exactly right. There's, across the whole show, we didn't really use any sort of synthetic sounds. They were all from a lot of library stuff, but certainly from realistic recordings of nature, of even things that we would record ourselves, just hitting wood and all that sort of stuff to generate textures and stuff. So I know one of the big elements that had the most impact for me was actually all of those lava bombs flying in. That was Robbie Stambler, my supervising partner, sort of just took that and ran with it, and just totally went to town. And there were layers of liquid. There were small explosions in there, and it was just and almost like they almost sounded like giant ricochets coming in and tearing through the air. Like, I think there was the other big part of that moment is the music. My God, Bear's score in that was just more epic than epic. If you think about Lord of the Rings and you think about those huge cues that are just so iconic, that is going to go down as one of the most iconic moments in this season and probably in all of Lord of the Rings history.
Yeah. It was pretty epic. And as you're talking, there are so many specific skill sets that go into the sound of a series. And you've worked a lot of these jobs. You've previously in other projects, you've been a Foley editor, you've been ADR mixer, re-recording mixer, you've worn many hats in this world. So I'm curious, what was it that specifically made you fall in love with this type of work? And is this sort of where you saw yourself back in the day?
Uh, yeah, look, it's been quite a journey for me. I think one thing that early on in my career, what I wanted to do was to become a supervisor and a mixer. Really, I wanted to develop an understanding of all of the elements of a soundtrack. So, I mean, I originally started out in music. I was just a gigging musician, but then fell in love with production and sort of the technology. But once I sort of went to film school and decided to then just concentrate on film sound, I realized there's just so many workflows, so many creative avenues to travel in this career, that I needed to understand them all, to be able to manage teams and to be able to develop these types of soundtracks. And so I basically, one of the advantages of coming up in the industry in Australia and New Zealand, these sort of smaller industries, is there's no real barrier between disciplines, and between these types of roles. So I sort of set about not saying no to opportunities and just kind of taking them as moments to learn and to develop my skills, to the point where I could confidently go, I could manage any show, I could mix any show, I could edit on any element of any show. Look, the journey is ongoing. I'm not saying I know it all, but that process of learning all of the elements, dialogue, editing, recording, ADR, Foley, sound effect mixing, music mixing, they all feed in to developing a broader vision for a soundtrack, but then also being able to communicate and understand when issues come up, how to solve them. It really makes me a better manager of the team, and I hope my team appreciates it. But it certainly gives me more confidence to be able to just talk to any member of the team and be able to help them out. Because really, as a supervisor, that's kind of the job. It's to make sure that the people you're asking to do a job can do their job, and you're able to support them in the way that they need.
Well, clearly, Emmy voters thought they were all very well supported here. So congratulations on your Emmy nomination for The Rings of Power. It's wonderful work. For everyone who's watching, make sure you subscribe to us at Gold Derby and stick with us throughout the rest of this Emmy season. Damian, thank you once again.
Great. Thanks so much, Sam.